everyone, welcome back, and thank you for joining us on the Live Unreal with Glover U podcast, where every week Jeff Glover will dive deep into the questions that you are asking. He understands the challenges you are facing on a day-to-day basis because he still works every day on the front lines of real estate, with him and his team closing over 1,000 homes per year. On this episode, we will go over step 13 in the Glover U sales system, handling objections. In this step, Jeff teaches you that objections are good and how to use them to close the appointment. Now, let's hear from Jeff Glover on step 13 in the 20 steps of the Glover U sales system.
Handling objections. Handling objections in the sales system. Objections are good. Objections mean that the customer is considering working with you. We've been on those appointments where we do our song and dance, and the seller just sits there kind of stone-faced, and I don't get any sort of response out of them, and they definitely don't give me any objections. Not going to get that listing. Why? Because I'm not in rapport. I did not match and mirror them, which is why they're not considering working with me, because if they were considering working with me, they would give me some objections. And so, I love objections, because that means I got a shot at this thing, and that's my mentality. So I wrote down, what is the difference between a smoke screen and a real objection? Because those are two different things. The difference between a smoke screen and a real objection, I'll share that with you now. A smoke screen is when the seller says, I want to think it over. I need to give this some thought. Let me take the night to sleep on it. A smoke screen is not an objection because you don't have a specific objection to handle. A great salesperson can uncover the smoke screen, which is why it's called a smoke screen, and find the real objection. An objection, a real objection, is a specific question that we can overcome. Smoke screen, general. Real objection, specific. Well, how do you do that? Well, of course, we have to get to the real meat of what they're concerned about, or what they're, in my case, considering working with me if I answer this question properly. Well, Jeff, this is a big decision. It's really one that we think we need to think over. Well, I can certainly appreciate that you need to think this over. It's not, listing your home is certainly not a decision that you make every day, so I understand your thought process on that. And if you don't mind me asking, since we're all here together, what is it specifically that's stopping you from putting me to work for you today? Every presentation, when I get a smoke screen. By the way, I followed the rules of handling objections. I'll give those to you now. Most of you heard them in the half day, so I'm going to breeze through them quickly. Rules of handling objections. Never argue, rule number 1. Never argue, always agree. I totally understand. I completely agree. I know where you're coming from. By agreeing, you are essentially disarming them. By disagreeing, you're putting up there's a defense mechanism that kicks in. It's human nature. When someone disagrees with us, we go on the defense. When someone agrees, we stay on offense with them. And we're actually open to what they have to say. So even though we actually disagree with a lot of things when we're talking to them, we have to start off with a statement of agreement, so that way they will tune in to what I have to say. Because if I disagree up here and I disagree with what I say, they're not listening to what I say. It's now a debate. And you're never going to win a listing or a buyer in a debate. So no matter what it is that they say, in this case, we really would like to take the night to sleep on it. I totally understand. I would want to take the night to sleep on it too. If I don't list a property every single day, then this is a big decision, and I can understand why you would want to think about it. And if you don't mind me asking, what is it specifically that's stopping you from putting me to work for you tonight? I heard what they said. I agreed with what they said. And I followed rule number 2, which is replace the word but and however with the word and. You didn't hear any but or however in that. You heard and. At first, it's comfortable because we're used to saying but and however. But whenever we say but and however, we are essentially negating everything that we said before that. When you say, I totally understand what you're saying, but, you are actually saying, I don't agree with what you're saying. When you say, I totally understand where you're coming from, and have you considered, and have you thought about, you're in a state of agreement where they're digesting and listening to what you have to say versus disagreeing and tuning you out. Rule number 3 on handling objections. Smile and nod your head a lot. We sometimes get tense. We sometimes turn red. We might get choked up because it's a tough objection. If you smile and nod your head, it just comes out with ease. Next I wrote down, is this number 5? 4? 4. Great. Always restate the objection. Rule number 4 is always restate the objection. And you would do that during your statement of agreement. Well, we're only interested in working with an agent if they're going to give us a little break on the commission. Hey, I can totally understand why you'd want a break on the commission. You want to net the most out of the sale of this home. And if I were in your shoes, I'd probably be asking me the same question. And have you considered the challenge that that might create for us? Restate the objection in a positive way. Finally, number 5, always close after handling an objection. One thing I notice when I go through the videos and watch the listing presentations, because that's something we do. We watch your listing presentation, we critique it, we help you get better. One thing I noticed with a lot of our agents that send in their listing presentations, they would handle the objection perfectly. They would even follow the rules, except for rule number 5. They would forget to close for the next step at the end of handling an objection. And a lot of them would just sit there and wait to be fed another objection. See, when I handle an objection, you have to remember the consumer saying, okay. In their mind, they're saying, okay, that sort of makes sense. Or I could maybe wrap my head around that. Or yeah, I would maybe consider that. Great. So are you ready to put me to work for you? Handle an objection, close.
Thank you for taking your time to join Jeff today on the Live Unreal with Glover U podcast to take the real estate self-assessment that begins the Glover U sales system and have a member of Glover U get on a call with you to create an action plan to improve your score. Go to www.gloveru.com/self. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe. Search for Live Unreal with Glover U on iTunes, Podbean, or Spotify, and subscribe today. Until next time, remember, objections are good. Objections mean the client is considering working with you.